Hello everybody, I'm Jim Durrett, Mayor of Montgomery County. I'm just excited to bring you another one of our series, our interviews of shining the spotlight on people in county government and truly shining it where it needs to be shown. And so today I have the distinct honor of being able to sit down and talk to Miss Sherry Robertson, who is Director of Adult Probation Services for Montgomery County. Sherry, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Good, good. So I'm going to ask you a whole lot of questions about what y'all do, because y'all do a lot.
Okay.
But I want to start off, and I want everybody to learn a little bit more about Sherry.
Okay.
So just start from some point in your life and bring us to where we are today.
From some point in my life. So I came actually to Clarksville. We won't say the year, but I came to Clarksville to Austin Peay.
Awesome. So, I didn't know that.
Yes, I did. And so during the course of being at Austin Peay, I chose to do an internship, my undergraduate degrees in social work. And I did an internship with the girls' home and had an opportunity at that time to have exposure to the courts. So at a particular year, they decided that they were growing and were going to add a probation officer. So I was hired as the first juvenile probation officer for the county.
The very first juvenile probation officer?
Yes, because see, back then, the population was somewhere in the 70s.
Yeah.
And now we're almost at 160,000.
Yeah, we're double that.
Yeah,
for sure.
So it's hard to imagine when you come to the court. It's hard for me to imagine when you come to the court how it is now, that it wasn't always like that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. And when, I came and there was Larry Ross and Ed Davis and then the judges and, then I was added, and then of course the administrative staff, and I was added to the team. And eventually a juvenile probation officer and a youth service officer. And so that's how I became exposed to the county, because of my exposure through my internship with the girls' home. I'll just throw that in there. That's why I've always received interns, just because my internship was so impactful to where I am now, that I've taken interns since '99.
Paid it back, huh?
Paid it back.
That's so awesome.
Yes, and plus I also believe in the social work program at Austin Peay. My graduate degree is from Murray, but I live here, and so Austin Peay is here, and so I do take intern students from there. We have an intern student from that same program right now. So at any rate, that exposure to the court allowed me to be contacted and considered for the position. I was young and gonna change the world then. And so I stayed with the county for 6.5 years. I didn't know what I know now.
Mm-hmm.
And so 9 years later, I had the opportunity to come back to the county. Had some amazing opportunities in between there.
Yeah.
When I was in graduate school, I had the opportunity to write a paper. And at the time, Pat Mock was the managing attorney at Legal Aid. And we share a passion for working with women in domestic violence situations. Mm-hmm. And I shared my paper with her. It was a community project. Well, she decided to send it on, and with a few modifications, it was funded. And that program still exists at Legal Aid today. So I had the opportunity to go and work for that program. Once it was funded, it was a grant. Had an opportunity to go and work that grant. And so while I was working there, I received a call that Montgomery County was going to go from adult probation being with the judges, because they were in the same place. The judges placed people on probation, and they came to the same office as the judges were in, which obviously is not ideal.
Right.
So I received a call when I was at Legal Aid that said, hey, Montgomery County is going to go to private probation. And we were speaking with the judges, and Judge Shelton said, hey, we know who you should get to run this program. Mm-hmm. And so I'd have an opportunity to interview for that, and ran that program for 4.5 years. And then the county decided at that time, Mayor Weiland the mayor at the time, they decided to bring the program back to county government.
Right.
And so that was in 2003, and I've been here ever since.
So you had a short stint, you left, and then you came back in 2003 permanently. So how many total years?
Total 25.5.
Oh,
so
wow,
I was
that's
with the
awesome.
county 6.5 years originally. And then I've been back, June will be 19 years.
Where were you born and raised?
Union City.
I knew
Tennessee.
you somewhere in West Tennessee. See,
Yes.
my family is from, well, my mom's family is from West Tennessee, but they're a little bit further south, down a little town called Ripley. But I, for some reason, I knew you were born and raised in West Tennessee. Well, you know, you've had a long career in social work am I describing that right?
Social work, public service.
Yeah, public service
yeah.
for sure.
Mhm.
So tell me what a typical day looks like in your office. Or is there such
I was gonna
thing as
say,
a
probably
typical
most
day?
people say there's not a typical day, and maybe that sounds cliche, but I don't know that there is a typical day. Obviously, I'm a planner, so we start off with a plan for the day, but you have to be able to be flexible to whatever happens. For us, there's court every day. There are generally 2 sessions. We operate out of General Sessions Court, and so there's 2 sessions of court every day. When we see people on probation, that's called reporting. So reporting happens pretty much every day, more specifically Monday through Thursday on a set schedule, and then Friday by appointments. And then of course we have recovery court, so they report, you know, we see them up to 7 days a week.
But I know just from being in the court center after 5 o'clock, there's a lot of times y'all are doing stuff up there till 7 or 8 o'clock at night, aren't you?
Yes, and I believe that that's important for us because if a person, we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
I think that we forget that some of us just didn't get caught. I mean, I think that's just the truth. And so when a person makes a mistake and they're placed on probation, I've always believed that if they are to meet the court orders and they are to work, we have to have some flexibility. So that's why we keep the courthouse open till 7 on Mondays and Tuesdays. If they're coming from Nashville, if they're working,
you try to be accommodating.
trying to be accommodating. Obviously, we have limitations. We can't be there all the time, but we try to be accommodating.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have a satellite location over here at Veterans Plaza, to where evenings and weekends we also conduct classes, and during the day too. But primarily, that location is so that we don't have to have the operation over downtown.
Sherry, talk about let me, before I ask you about recovery court, and we've had some other folks that we've done these interviews with that work with the judicial system, and it's really technically, and I don't even like saying this, technically, the mayor is your boss, but you hardly have any interaction with the mayor. Your interactions is with the judges.
With the judges.
I mean, I'm not saying that you don't, but
Exactly.
you're more on the judicial side and not on what I would call the executive branch of government.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it that way. I'm sorry, what's your question?
Well, I just think it's unique, and I don't think a lot of people realize that county government, when they think about county government, they think about building and codes, and they think about, you know, the assessor's office and the highway department, but there's a big part of county government that's involved in the judicial process.
Oh, a huge.
I mean, huge.
So huge that our office is actually gonna be moving out of the court center.
Right.
So that's how much it's growing.
Yeah.
With the, you know, we spoke earlier about when I first started with county government, the population being around 70,000, in the 70,000s.
Yeah.
And now being almost 160,000. With that comes, unfortunately, a growth in crime. So there's a need for more judges, there's a need for bigger facilities to accommodate more judges, to be able to process more cases coming through the court. So there's a plan for us. We'll be relocating, hopefully, next year or somewhere in the area.
Sometime soon.
Yeah.
So I still want to ask you about recovery court, but I want to go back inside your office. So you say you're in court, you have somebody in court every day. How many people actually physically work in your office?
Right now, because we do have vacancies, and obviously that's one of the challenges, but right now we have, I believe, 13 on staff, and then of course we have a couple of contract workers as well, and we're very fortunate also to have interns in our office.
So is every one of your people, are they trained or whatever to like be able to go to court, or is there a certain group that go to court and others just have appointments and meet people on probation?
So the goal is for everybody to be cross-trained to
Right,
a degree.
right.
Obviously, you have administrative staff who are not probation officers or case officers, and so they do go to court and serve a role as well. If the pandemic taught us nothing else, it taught us that we have to be able to be flexible. If you have 3 people out because they're having a quarantine, the court expects us to still be able to function
Right.
and to cover what needs to be covered. And so there are set people who are set to go to court, but those same people also see people in the office.
Yeah.
So we are fairly regimented, and you would hope there's a normal day, but that does get adjusted. But on Mondays and the people who go to court on Mondays and Wednesdays typically see their clients on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
And then vice versa,
Yeah.
like that. With recovery court, of course, with them being in different phases, they're coming all week long.
So now what a great segue into recovery court.
Okay.
Talk about it, because I think it's so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it to me, it's. I'll just let you talk about it.
So in 2004, I received a call from Judge Grimes, who said his passion, from what I understood at the time, was to start recovery court in the juvenile court. And there was no funding for that. And they had done a lot of groundwork for the juvenile court. And once they realized the funding piece wasn't in place, and that there were funds coming up for adult recovery courts, he called and said, hey, let's look into that and see how we can make that happen. And so we looked into that and were able to apply for a training grant, where we had an opportunity to go to several different states to get trained by people already doing the job.
Mm-hmm.
And amazing judges, amazing coordinators already in place, amazing directors already in place, so that we could see what was already being done. And then that way, by sending us, for example, to Texas, our team went to Texas and other places, but they put us in a room to where we're not able to be here getting distracted by our regular
Mm-hmm.
jobs, learning from them, but then putting us in a room to discuss together. What is our population? What is our target population for the court? What impact do we want to have? Who do we want to serve? So we went through that process from 2004 to 2005, and then June of 2005, we took our first participant. Recovery court, for those who don't know, is people who are in active addiction. They must admit that they're in active addiction and that they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, but also that they're powerless over that addiction and that they need help. The judges by nature do not force anyone into recovery court.
Mm-hmm.
We only take people who want to be there. And so obviously sometimes people think they want to be there and they find out it's extremely strict.
Yeah.
And then they don't want to be there. And then imagine being in jail for an extended period of time and someone tells you about recovery court. Oh, that means I get out? Okay, I want recovery court. And then so sometimes it doesn't work out. But recovery court, I mean, is really just a way. We have probation, and probation, both courts, both programs enforce the orders of the court. But the difference between probation, which is in our office, and recovery court, which is in our office, is that on probation, we may have 1,200 people in a year that we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with recovery court, we try to limit that to 35. Here lately, it's around 40-ish, 50. But it's more targeted so that we're able to give you more one-on-one. We see you more frequently. It's based on your need, whereas probation is based on, the court has said, for example, you have a DUI, you must complete DUI school, pay your fines, costs, fees, pass your drug screens, and then your probation is over. Recovery court, you start in phase 1. In phase 1, you're in active addiction. So our goal at that point is to deal with your addiction.
Right.
So we're looking for treatment. And not everybody needs the same level of treatment. Some people have been to treatment before, some people have never been to treatment, some people, based on their insurance, qualify for more at one level of treatment or another. And then as you are working your program, you get to advance the phases 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you ultimately graduate. And there are guidelines for you to have, say, 120 days of sobriety, you must be fully employed, you must have stable housing. So you've been with us for an extended period of time before you're released on your own.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they become like family, because you see them pretty much every day.
Yeah.
You know, we do surprise drug screens on Christmas Eve and things like that.
Yeah.
Because you have already admitted that you're powerless over your addiction, so you need systems in place to help you see that you actually can do it.
Exactly.
So it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
And I can't talk about recovery court without mentioning Judge Grimes. I mean, it was his idea that birthed it, and has
he was so passionate about it.
Very fortunate to work with him, to see his dream become reality. Many lives have been changed. It would, you know, I would be lying if I said everyone has been successful in recovery court. With all the joy that comes with recovery court, there's also pain. We've had to go to funerals of people who, you know, did overdose or have situations while they were in our program. But Judge Grimes really was very passionate about recovery court, and became very personal, not in an unprofessional way, but just what you don't see with judges. And that's part of recovery court. You do see that with other judges in recovery court, but for us, that being local, he's the person that's the reason why we have the recovery court. And then I can't also talk about recovery court without mentioning Ms. Richards. Ms. Richards is our current coordinator. I'm the director, but she's the coordinator. She makes it happen. Yeah. And she's amazing. So she is very amazing.
Well, you know, Judge Grimes, you know, we have a courtroom upstairs named after him, but the legacy that he left with recovery court is just, it's phenomenal. And I'm so glad that his wife, Judge Sharon Massey Grimes, is that she was appointed. She's up for election. She doesn't have any opposition, so I can say she's going to be our next judge. And I know she's very passionate about it too, but I was fortunate enough to go to several of the graduations. And when you talked about Judge Grimes, you could see in his face, people that didn't know him, he could be a pretty stern fella. I mean,
yes.
But to see his face during those graduations, and for him to make a very professional, but just a comment about one of the participants, knowing that he was that much involved and invested in him, pretty special. But that is something special that y'all do, and I'm so glad we talked about that. You know, people are going to get in trouble. People are going to do bad things.
Absolutely.
But there are programs, and obviously probation is, you know, it's through the state court, it's through the law and that type of stuff. But this recovery court is really, it's something that's just, it's unique to Montgomery County, and we have a bunch of very special, unique people that are involved in it, and you're one of them, and I greatly appreciate that.
Oh, well, thank you very much for that. I was thinking as you were speaking that when you asked me to start off talking, I should have definitely said that I'm a woman of faith. That's who I am day in and day out. Obviously, I'm not allowed to enforce that on anyone else, but it is because it is who I am. It impacts how I live, breathe, and move, and do things. I really believe in all the years, I think one of the reasons that I feel successful in what I'm doing is because I do realize that but for the grace of God, there go I. I know that the person I'm sitting on the other side of the table with, it could be reversed. Yeah. And I think when you think that way, you always realize that they're not less than you. Right. In fact, in our office, if someone comes on probation, we call them Mr. and Mrs. I don't call any of them by their first name. We show them the respect that we expect them to give and that they deserve. Yeah. I don't expect, yes, you are, we want to separate your action from who you are. What you did, I say to them, I cannot change the judge's orders. It's already been done. I can't add to it or take away from it. We're here now. So how do we go forward? Yeah. You know, but if they can understand that you also have the ability to be empathetic to their situation, then I think that you get more from them. Yeah. And I say to staff, you must have expectations. If you don't expect something from someone, you won't receive anything. Right. And so you must communicate those expectations. And I do really feel like that has to do with the woman that I am, of being a woman.
Awesome. Awesome. So, Sherry, what are some short-term and long-term challenges for your office? Obviously, space, because you talked about that.
Well, it's not honestly a challenge for us because we're comfortable where we are. It's probably a challenge for others, and they need our space. We're just very fortunate that a wonderful space has been found for us, and it's in very close proximity to the courthouse. So honestly, I don't see that as a challenge. We're really very excited about that move. While we're able to keep the courthouse open until 7 Mondays and Tuesdays, that requires security and all of that. Not that we will need that in our new location.
Right.
But right now we're in 2 different locations. So I may have staff over here, let's see, today is a perfect example. I have staff at Veterans Plaza conducting groups on Thursday until 8:15 p.m. Then I have staff over at the court center conducting business. And so if whatever we're trying to do, if we're trying to get the staff together, it's very difficult with the way that we operate. But the way that we operate is trying to be available for the people that we serve. So I think for me, maybe my long-term challenge and my short-term challenge, I hope they don't end up being the same, but one is hiring qualified personnel. At one point, I can literally remember, for an administrative assistant position, having 238 applications and calling human resources and saying, can I get a temp until I have opportunity to go through all of these applications? Because I feel like if everybody applies by a deadline, they deserve their application to be seen. So we were able to get a temp. Now we may get 20 people and 5 of them really may meet the qualifications. So I hear that as a challenge for others as well. So it's not just us, but that really, really, really has an impact on your operation. You, unfortunately, you decide that I'm gonna choose someone who's not qualified, or that position stays open until you do have qualified people. And for me, being in management and supervision for about 30 years, you learn that substituting doesn't really work out in the long run. Most of the time.
It's tough. It's tough. I mean, because you can't just stop the flow of work and train somebody. The water's still running, and you got to keep drinking it, and they don't get to turn it off. So I know it's tough. Talk to me about what would you tell somebody if you just walked out of here and you met somebody on the street, and you've lived here a long time. So, and that person was thinking, or that couple was thinking about moving to Clarksville, Montgomery County. What would you tell them?
I love living in Montgomery County. Now we have to remember that I came from Union City.
I know.
So nothing against Union City. I love Union City. I'll be going there this weekend. Obviously, my mom is still there, but my husband and I, Monday, we celebrated 36 years of marriage.
Congratulations!
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
I took the day off. Thank you, Montgomery County. But we've been here, and we've really had the opportunity to raise our children in a place that we haven't worried about them being in school. We haven't, it's not too big and it's not too small. He's from Virginia and from a tourist town, Williamsburg. So I'm from Union City. Mine is too small, his is too big. For us, this is right in the middle. So when I think about that question, I think about myself now, and I think about my younger self. If I talk to someone today with the knowledge that I have now, I would have to consider where they are. Are they my younger self? Because I left Montgomery County not having an appreciation for the first time, not having an appreciation for the benefits and all of the things that are important to me now. They weren't important to my younger self. And so I would take stock into who I'm speaking with. Do they have children? I think the school system here is great. I had the opportunity to be in the founding class of Leadership Clarksville Montgomery County Schools, because I was on the Education Foundation Board at the time, and I saw how amazing it is to run the school system. I didn't get to see everything, but when I saw all the bits and pieces, I loved my children going through the Montgomery County schools. And I think that We're close enough to Nashville if you want a lot more activity, but Clarksville is getting so much bigger that
No need to go to
you
Nashville.
won't have to go to Nashville for that. Back in the day, that's what we did if that's what we wanted. But no, for me, raising a family, the values that my husband and I have, this is the perfect size place. And with the growth that's happening here, there's so many opportunities that I feel like my children are adults now. So there are opportunities for them. They don't have to go to Nashville to get a job if they don't want to.
Exactly.
They don't have to go to Nashville to live if they don't want to. I feel like just the values that we've instilled in them, that this place also fits them as well. So
Awesome.
For me, I love being here.
That's awesome. One last question. Maybe not a moment, but what's one of the most gratifying things about your job?
There are a lot of gratifying things, but without giving a lot of thought to it and what pops in my head first, there are a lot of people in my office who are amazing. I hired everyone, so obviously I believe in every single one. But I recognize and appreciate that I could not honestly do what I do every day without the two people closest to me. And I feel a little emotional about that, but Johnny Clark is the assistant director, and Cindy Richards is the next level supervisor. They are amazing and make what we have to do, what I have to do, so much, I don't know if easier is the word, but you're not doing it alone.
Yeah.
And you know that for me as a leader, having people who are willing to tell you the truth, but tell you the truth in love, they're not trying to hurt you.
Right.
If you're going down the wrong path, or they even think that, they are not afraid to have that conversation with you. And when I came to Montgomery County, back to Montgomery County, June 18th of 2003, I had a desk, a phone, and a chair. And I had the amazing opportunity to build what we have now.
Mm-hmm.
And they see my vision, support that vision, and help me to fulfill it every day. So if I could only choose one thing that I'm most appreciative of at work, it's having them beside me. On both sides.
What an awesome way to end it. That is so cool. That is so cool. And I know both of them, and they're very special people. But they work with a very special lady, Sherry Robertson. So thank you so much.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
appreciate you.
Absolutely.